Welcome to Celestial Insights, a weekly podcast that brings the stars down to earth. I'm your host, astrologer, coach, and intuitive Celeste Brooks. My purpose is to provide practical, unique, and insightful guidance to help you navigate the energies of the week like a boss. Hello, this is Celeste of Astrology by Celeste, and on this episode, I will discuss the astrology for the week of February 23rd, 2025. Astrology Foundations 101 class begins this Thursday, February 27th at 5 p.m. Pacific time. If you are new to astrology, need a refresher, or like my teaching style and would like to experience learning astrology from the ground up with me, this class is for you. We will meet once a week for 8 weeks, and you will have the classes to keep. You can go to astrologybyceleste.com to check out more about the class, as well as the link in the show notes. February 12th's full moon, which squared the planet Uranus, the planet of upheaval, unexpected events, awakenings, aviation, really over-delivered on its promise to bring in unexpected and shocking things. J.D. Vance, on the day that Mercury was at the 29th degree of Aquarius, a sign that rules groups, spoke before the Munich Security Council, and he is the Vice President of the United States and was expected to give the U.S. thoughts on ending the war in Ukraine, and he went into what was described as a bizarre diatribe about how Europe needed to let the far-right groups have free speech, and that migration was their biggest problem over, concerns about Russia or China. The people were flabbergasted, unimpressed, and he couldn't leave quick enough. The next day, the headlines were not kind. And what happened was essentially Europe was awakened to the fact that the United States government now, the new administration, is not interested in being a partner. And so on Monday, the day that the sun was at 29 degrees of Aquarius, and the sun rules leaders, and the leaders of these different nations, the French President Macron called a meeting of all of the big leaders to talk about Ukraine and how they're going to manage through this situation with this war. And realizing, Europe is going to need to step up for their own defense. I would not be surprised if at some point with Saturn and Neptune in Aries, which is coming this spring, that first Neptune March 30th, and then Saturn goes into Aries end of May. And Aries is the sign of the military. And the vacuum that the United States is leaving, because the United States is off negotiating in Saudi Arabia with Russia, and no one from Europe or Ukraine about this war. And so, we'll see if anything comes of those discussions. But the United States is not necessarily going to be willing to put in any funding or weaponry to stop Russia. So what are the European countries going to have to do? They're going to have to put more money into their defense, as well as potentially even we may see somewhere or some places start having a draft again. Saturn in Aries. You've been conscripted. You have a duty to serve in the military. So that could be coming up over the next 2.5 years that Saturn travels in Aries. It doesn't start until May, but we may be seeing announcements about such a thing as early as March 29th, when we have the solar eclipse, a new start, a new energy in the sign of Aries. There was a terrifying plane crash in Toronto. The plane was coming from the US to Canada, and it crash landed. So something went on with the winds right around when it was landing, and it caught on fire and flipped upside down. It looked absolutely terrifying. Thankfully, everyone got out of the plane alive. There were a few people that went to the hospital, but it could have been a complete tragedy, and it was not. Their health news has been coming out that is very concerning. The flu has overtaken COVID in the number of deaths since the first time since the pandemic started. There are outbreaks of measles that are concerning. And measles is a disease that is so in line with Saturn and Neptune in Aries. Saturn rules the skin, and Aries is a fire sign. So red, inflammation, these are things associated with Aries energy. And these blotchy red spots all over people's skin makes a lot of sense. That this could be one of the stories about measles spreading wider. There's also a tuberculosis outbreak in Kansas, and bird flu is a problem, and it's crossed into cows, and human beings are getting bird flu from cows. So we've got a bunch of health concerns that are getting wider attention, and it is a really big problem, and it makes sense with the South Node being in the sign of Virgo. There's a drain on health. The North Node in Pisces, an amplification of illness. Your cosmic advantage begins with the Wise Skies digital calendar. With descriptions for every planetary and lunar event, all levels of astrology enthusiasts can enjoy the calendar on any device and now in many languages. With this superpower in your back pocket, you will be fully equipped to understand the astrological weather any day of the week. My good friend and collaborator, Tiffany Herlick, creates this calendar every year, and I use it daily. I highly recommend it. Use my coupon code for $10 off. The code is ABC2025. Let the universe have your back with the Wise Skies digital astrology calendar. The theme of this week is vanishing acts. And there are three things I want you to think about as you navigate this week. The first is that Mars will station direct at 17 Cancer today. Hallelujah! Mars has been retrograde since December 6th. Now, this time has been a good time to slow down, reflect, revisit, and revise what is going on within you, find mistakes and correct them. Mars inflames. I always get like some kind of pimple when Mars is changing directions. And right now it's in my ear. I have some kind of swollen gland in my ear that's sensitive to the touch. And I noticed, I can't put my ear pod in. It feels uncomfortable. So it's likely just something that will go away, but Mars retrograde is conjunct my ascendant. The ascendant is the physical body and is squaring my natal moon. And the moon, my moon's in Aries, and Aries rules the head. And it makes total sense that in my head, I'm having this pimple or cyst or whatever. So you may notice physical symptoms. Mars rules action, drive, and assertion, anger and conflict. So you may find yourself feeling a little extra agitated, people around you may be short-tempered or quick to bite back if at all irritated. So just keep that in mind. Give yourself grace, give other people grace. It will especially be felt if you have anything around 17 degrees, especially of a cardinal sign. So people who have planets around 17 Cancer, you can give 5 degrees on either side, will probably feel it the strongest. The tighter, the stronger you'll feel it. It's really personal because Mars is merging with the energy of you, and it's getting ready to go direct. So it can be good. Like Kendrick Lamar was having a Mars return when he was at the Super Bowl in Mars. He has Mars in Cancer, I think at 18, and Mars was stationing on his Mars going direct. So this boost of energy, and now he's like coming out of the gate and his popularity has expanded even more. And I'm hoping the same thing with me, with Mars squaring my moon, which rules my whole chart. Anyway, it being on my ascendant, like me taking action and moving forward. Well, I'm going to be teaching my class again. If you have Mars in Capricorn, that's an opposition. Oppositions come in from other people. So either you're feeling this internal pressure because of other people, or they're pushing you to move forward. In Aries or Libra, you could just feel an internal desire to act or to do something, or just feeling some kind of energy that is a little uncomfortable. But this too shall pass. 5 days before and after, it's the most intense when a planet is changing to go in a different direction. So it'll lighten up over the next couple of days, but there's likely some big event that's going to be going on. Actually, a bunch of big events. The news is going to be very busy. If it didn't happen already Friday or Saturday, then today's Sunday or Monday, there's probably going to be some big event. And I think it's going to be around water. Cancer is a water sign. Mercury in Pisces is in a smooth, easy flowing trine to Mars right before the station direct. And Mercury takes on the nature of what it's talking to. And so Mars is a malefic. It takes away from life. And Mercury is a planet that rules transportation, communication, and commerce. So there could be some kind of problem that leads to conflict on a water body or related to a water body that comes to our conscious attention. I wouldn't be surprised for those of us in the United States if I've been getting that something may be going on in the Middle East related to this. And it's a government thing, I think, or big business, because the moon is in the sign of Capricorn. So the moon is a communicator. People will be talking about Capricornian things or having emotions about Capricornian things over the next couple of days. And I wrote, clean up on aisle 4, highway 4, shipping lane 4, runway 4, or the kitchen table. So like there's a mess where something's been spilled and there's a need to clean things up. Now, this could also be bad storms where in the US, there's all kinds of flooding all over the place. So maybe it's just a continuation of the bad storms, but I think there's going to be some kind of event. And the event could be caused by, and when I say event, I mean an event that gets news that we see in the newspaper. Confusion, because Pisces can be confusion, and Mercury does not like to be in Pisces. It's the sign of its detriment and fall. So there's like this mental energy. Mercury rules the mind and the thought processes could be confused. So I wrote confusion, befuddlement, intoxication are potentials. Also gone missing, like somebody just goes missing. And then Mercury's going to meet Saturn. So it could be like the boss goes missing or strike energy. We'll see how it shows up. I wouldn't be surprised if it's something with the U.S. military and the head of it, who's totally unqualified, has to answer for what went on. We'll see. And if they blame Tulsi Gabbard and talk about, trying to turn the attention on a woman, I'm going to be really annoyed. There's something going on, which I'll get to, that concerns me about a woman being scapegoated, if she hasn't been already. The next thing I want to make you aware of is that there's a new moon at 9 degrees of Pisces on Thursday. This new moon is the last one of the zodiac year. Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac. So there's always a sense of endings with Pisces season. And this new moon opens a cycle, and the full moon of this cycle is a lunar eclipse. So we are in eclipse season, a time of big change where we walk through a door and we turn around and there's a wall. Events are already happening related to the lunar eclipse in Virgo. I mentioned the health things earlier on. There's also Virgo rules the people who do the work, the workforce, and all of these layoffs from the government. Meta has laid off thousands. A lot of other companies are starting to lay people off. And so South Node in Virgo, job losses, and North Node in Pisces, amplification of unemployment. People concerned about limited resources and things like that. It's all in line with the energy. And Pisces is a mutable water sign. It is very sensitive, emotional. Water signs are mute. It's a great time to get quiet, meditation, or just sitting and just being and not overscheduling yourself can be really, really helpful as you move through this energy. Watch out for being overly escapist. There can be just a desire to just check out, and sometimes you just need to check out, but be careful about overdoing any, drinking or drugging or spending or whatever is, if you have a method of escapism. Just know that this energy could have you really wanting to overdo it because the new moon is squared Jupiter, and Jupiter makes everything bigger. So if you're wanting to escape, the new moon is just going to make you want to escape even more. It's not going to make you, but it's symbolic of, especially with people who it's impacting their chart tightly, the energy is going to be more intense. Now, Jupiter is Jupiter. It typically will bring good things. It's not a bad energy. It's a benefic, but, overindulgence can have consequences. You eat too much and then you have a stomach ache. Now, Jupiter is conjunct the asteroid Amor. That has to do with love. So you might be feeling really romantic. Pisces energy can be so romantic. It's a poet energy that uses words in a beautiful, lyrical, soft, flowy way to make a statement. So you might be feeling like in Gemini's an air sign, air communicates or connects. So if your lover gives you a love note, or if you're inspired to put a love note in somebody's lunchbox or what have you, your kid's lunchbox, that would be so cute, like a little note to put for your kid in their lunchbox. Jupiter rules legal affairs and courts and things like that. And so this is going to be when we start to see some face-offs for those of us in the United States with the Trump administration and the courts, because they've done some things that are against the rules. And on the day before the new moon, there's going to be a man who was fired, Hampton Dellinger, from the head of the Office of Special Counsel, who was fired without cause, and that's prohibited. So we'll see how the court rules on that. situation because it could set the stage for a lot of the other battles about executive branch overreach. The new moon is conjunct the asteroid Cassandra, who saw the future and no one believed her. And I wrote here, I wonder if Tulsi Gabbard may give a heads up about something that she sees. She is the National Intelligence Director, and she oversees all of these intelligence agencies. There's concerns that she isn't really qualified for this job. She was a progressive Democrat who left the party, and there's been concerns over the years about her being a potential asset of Russia. So, but I don't know if that's just propaganda or what. But Cassandra foresaw several disastrous events, but no one listened, like the fall of Troy and the murder of Agamemnon and her own death. Anyway, I'm wondering because her chart is really activated this eclipse season. If there's going to be something that goes on where it's an intelligence failure and there's big problems, and whose fault is it? We'll see. But I can really see there's a lot of anti-women sentiment that's coming out, and I can see it being like, oh, let's blame it on the woman. And Pluto is conjunct asteroid Lilith, who would not be subservient. Yeah, her title is Director of National Intelligence. And I wrote down that I don't think Trump or Musk have any intentions of really listening to her. So we'll see what happens. Also, Saturn, the planet that brings clarity, discipline, duty, it's in the sign of Pisces, water concerns. Saturn is hardship, and we've seen so much hardship due to water from storms and things, and it's sextile Uranus in Taurus. So this is energy of, because Taurus is earth, Pisces is water, Saturn is hardship, Uranus is unexpected upheaval. Now a sextile is an opportunistic, softer aspect, but they're within 3 degrees of each other, and now it's just going to get tighter and tighter and tighter. And sometimes, a difficult thing is just the right opportunity. Like if there's a spill in aisle 4, like someone knocked milk off the shelf and didn't clean it up or tell anyone, and then like a kid is racing through the store and just slips on the spilled milk and boom, they hit the ground. So hopefully this will slow down the upheaval. Saturn slows and delays things. It's slowing down the Uranian action. So if the courts start saying, no, you can't do that, that's possible. Or it just brings even more attention to the fact that there's all these, people being thrown out of their jobs in the government. And now we've had 2 situations that happened in relationship to the full moon square Uranus. People who work at a nuclear facility were accidentally fired and then asked to come back. And people for the USDA, the Department of Agriculture, were fired. And we're in the middle of a bird flu pandemic or epidemic. I'm not sure the exact correct wording, but we've got a big problem with bird flu. So they were fired and then asked to come back. So there's a lot of upheaval going on in the government because this rapid fire trying to reduce the size of the government and to make it more efficient isn't being done with precision or the proper care, in my opinion, and the opinion of other people. And just so quickly, mistakes are being made, and they could have very serious consequences if there's some kind of nuclear accident or, food goes out that's contaminated and shouldn't be served to people or animals or what have you. The sun and the moon are both at 9 degrees of Pisces. The tarot cup is the 8 of Cups. And this is a sad card about disappointment, withdrawal, abandoned. The person on the tarot card is like walking away. There are 8 cups behind them, and there's a situation that has to be left behind. The Sabian symbol is an aviator in the clouds. And with all of the problems we've been having with planes, it is a little concerning that this is the Sabian symbol, but you can think about it being about taking a higher view from a higher perspective. Now, dense fog can be a problem throughout this cycle, I think, because there's so much Pisces energy, and with Saturn in Pisces, that makes it feels like Saturn, which the color like black is ruled by Saturn. It can make it, hard to see. So there could be a lot of plane delays throughout the lunar cycle. At the full moon, Mercury is stationing to go retrograde. So that could be a slowdown in transportation. Or even I myself and some other people have been getting the image of planes grounded for some reason. Like it could be just bad weather, or like some kind of system is down. And people from SpaceX are supposed to be upgrading the aviation FAA system, which is kind of concerning, the air traffic control system. Do they have the qualifications to do this? This kind of work usually gets put out to bid, and companies are vetted rather than just given contracts. So we'll see what happens with this during the lunar cycle with aviation, but it's likely to continue to be a story that's in the news. Regarding the lunar phase family, at the new moon, the sun and the moon are both at 9 degrees of Pisces on February 27, 2025, opening up a new 27-month cycle. If you have anything near 9 Pisces, especially within 3 or so degrees on either side, there may be a story in your life related to the theme of Pisces. Can be about what are your dreams? What is your spiritual practices or belief systems? The first quarter moon with the sun in Sagittarius and the moon in Pisces, both at 6 degrees, will be November 27th, later this year. The lunar eclipse, the full moon is a lunar eclipse of this cycle, the sun in Virgo, the moon in Pisces, August 27th of 2026. They're both at 4 degrees. And the last quarter moon will be the sun in Gemini, the moon in Pisces, both at 7 degrees on May 28th, 2027. So you can use these dates to set intentions in the future, like where do I want to be 9 months from now with this project? And you can set dates throughout a 27-month cycle for things that take a long time to get done, related to maybe if you're writing a book or starting a business or bigger things. You can use these dates for planning. The last thing I want to make you aware of is that Venus is going to station retrograde from March 1st through April 12th. Venus is going to appear from our perspective on Earth, that it stops in the sky at 10 Aries and then backs it up to 24 Pisces and then turns direct and goes back over the old ground. So there's part of your chart that has 3 passes of Venus, where there can be a story that has 3 parts to it, where there can be an event, a return to the event, and then the psychological integration of what went on. So Venus moved through its shadow since the end of January. So something that you thought was resolved could come back to your attention. This could be like, you find there was a bill that wasn't paid or something like that. Now, Venus rules popularity, beauty, relationships, money, our values. And it's in the sign of its detriment in the sign of Aries, where it does not like to be. It's at home in Libra and Taurus, where it can do what it does with ease, which is unite and charm, flatter, and magnetize things to yourself that you want. But now Venus is answering into Mars, and Mars is in Cancer, so there can be like emotionally charged conflicts in relationships. So just be aware. This is a beautiful time to go within and do some shadow work about how you are in relationship. Are you too people pleasing? Are you too selfish? Are you, or self-focused? Maybe I shouldn't use the word selfish. Self-focused, or how can you do some balance so that you're in relationships that experience reciprocity, give and take. Great time to express your love. And I think we're going to be seeing things in the collective, especially the United States, related to this trade war, because the day before Venus goes retrograde, Mercury enters its shadow. Mercury rules commerce, transportation, as well as communication. So March 1st is the date. The tariffs against Canada and Mexico are supposed to go into effect. And those countries are doing alternative counter tariffs. So the trade war could start in essence, and Venus rules money. Mercury has to do with trade, Aries war. It makes total sense that this is what is going on. Yeah, Venus entered its shadow January 28th and it exits May 15th. So there's a long time where these events may have 3 parts. I wrote down, I see this as some popular people may be experiencing difficulties where they may be going after deliberately, or we shall see what is going on. I think Tulsi Gabbard's going to make news during this time. Women's rights issues. I just saw something online where a woman in South Carolina was having an ectopic pregnancy and they would not help her. It's on her ovary, and she could potentially lose her ovary or her life. So we're going to be seeing things like that. For AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, this cycle is personal for her most likely because Venus stations retrograde, squaring some of her planets in her first house. So I'll talk about that if it happens. I also wrote down Mika Brzezinski. Joe and Mika are two TV hosts that have their popularity has declined greatly because they have been submitting to in advance to some of the new administration's demands. So they may make news, and her Saturn is being eclipsed, which can be somewhat uncomfortable. So we'll see what happens, and I'll talk about it later. But just to be aware, it's not a good time to have big or impulsive purchases. I think this is a great time to conserve your resources or spend on what you've planned. You may find that you're able to trim some of your expenses by going back and rethinking how you spend your money. I think we're going to be seeing women with more haircuts that are a statement against the patriarchy, trying to control women, like shorter haircuts, red colored, that sort of thing. Aries is a fire sign. Red is associated with it. And we could see problems in the art world. There's probably going to be someone who's trying to throw paint on a painting or something like that to make a statement about climate change or something. We'll see demonstrations like that. But artists are Venusian people, women, and we'll see if there's like some women's rights activists that makes big news. If you are embarking on a new journey, experiencing a major life event, feeling stuck, trying to make a difficult decision, or just looking to make positive changes, astrology can provide life-changing insights. There are several ways to work with me. You can come for a 60 or 90-minute astrology consultation depending on your needs. Engage in longer-term cosmic success coaching where we work together on a 3-month basis to help you overcome blocks, improve your life satisfaction, build better relationships, accomplish your career goals, and understand yourself better using the tool of astrology. Or mystic mentoring if you're an aspiring astrologer and want help with chart analysis techniques. Go to astrologybyceleste.com to check out my offerings. If you have any questions, you can email me at celeste@astrologybyceleste.com. On Sunday, the word of the day is skid mark. This is the day the moon is in Capricorn as we begin the day. Mercury in Pisces is trine Mars in Cancer, both at 17 degrees. Trying to remove all restrictions. So this could be like there's a problem with a boat or a conflict on water, and we'll see what happens. Mars stations direct at 17 degrees of Cancer. So it's going to take a while for Mars to pick up steam, but it's going to start moving in the right direction. So things that were stalled may start to get some energy back. It's going to stay at 17 degrees for another week or two, but at least there is some forward momentum again. And Ceres, the asteroid or sometimes it's called a dwarf planet, it has to do with the grain. It's the asteroid of nurturing. It has to do with mothers. It also has to do with like agriculture and the harvest. Ceres was Persephone's mother, and when Persephone was stolen to hell by Hades, she let all of the agriculture die. It's a mythology about winter, and then her daughter was allowed to come back to be with her 6 months a year, and that's when the spring and summer happens. So it's a story about the seasons. But I wrote down goddess of the grain. Cereal disappears from grocery shelves. So Americans are going to start noticing certain staples or certain products like grocery shelves emptying out as the trade war ramps up, unless it's called off. But I don't see it being called off. That would be nice, but we'll see. So just be prepared. If there are certain things that are your favorite, you may want to stock up before they get sparse. But like in my Trader Joe's, there are no eggs the last 2 or 3 times I've been there. And there's a 1 carton limit. I've seen things about people at Costco getting tons and tons of eggs, like getting dozens at the same time. So stores are having to put limits again on people because of hoarding. On Monday, the word of the day is situation. The moon squares Chiron in Aries, and it's a little uncomfortable. So this can be, Chiron is the asteroid of wounding or healing. So there may be some people having difficult conversations with bosses. Capricorn is a sign of a leader. Balsamic Moon starts at 21 degrees of Capricorn at 6:05 a.m. Pacific time. As I said earlier, I think there's going to be something related to the government or the military that captures our attention. We shall see. The Aquarius moon begins at 9:39 p.m. Pacific time. Aquarius is an air sign. Air communicates and connects. It rules groups. Maybe we'll find out about what the European nations have to say about Ukraine or any actions they're taking about that country. The UK said they may be sending peacekeeping troops there. We shall see. But the next couple of days are a great time to take a step back, view things from a higher perspective, connect with groups or organizations that are important to you and speak to your values. Reach out to friends, see how they're doing, that sort of thing. On Tuesday, the word of the day is foggy. There's a Moon-Pluto conjunction, so masses of people are going to be becoming aware of something Plutonian. So subconscious stuff may come up to our attention. Things about tech. You may be finding something new out about tech and how it's interfering in your life, or there's some update push to iPhones or something, and there's something about it that captures your attention about the intrusion of tech in our personal lives. Or there could be the air is obscured. Pluto obscures things, and it's an air sign for some reason. So maybe there's something about, there could literally just be a lot of fog in places because of all of the Pisces energy is symbolic of that. With Saturn and Neptune being there as well, there's this intensification of the heaviness of the water in the atmosphere. Mercury will be conjunct Saturn at 20 Pisces. So there can be delays with Saturn. Mercury communicates, so bad news or disappointing news or things coming to your attention that are being announced about Saturn and Pisces topics. So it can be about weakness of physical bodies due to illness, like this bird flu, measles, all of these kinds of things. So Mercury conjunct Saturn can be like a little bit of a buzzkill, bad news. Or if you've been working really hard on some mental project, this could be where it's the culmination, where you complete something that's a task that's been hard, and I'm done could be a Mercury conjunct Saturn statement, because Saturn is the end and the limit. Mercury communicates. On Wednesday, the word of the day is layover. The Aquarius moon squares Uranus and Taurus, so there's some kind of sudden break or sudden upheaval. I wrote down shouting at the counter, and I was thinking of people at the counter of like a train station or a airport. Well, I was thinking airport, where people are upset because flights are delayed, likely due to weather. On Thursday, the word of the day is adoration. The Pisces moon begins at 12:46 a.m. This is a wonderful time to get quiet, practice forgiveness, be in flow, maybe consider a meditation. On this day, Mercury in Pisces is sextile Uranus and Taurus, both at 23 degrees. And this is why I think there's going to be some airline upheaval or something. Like I wrote down, you have to go back to the airport and people are clapping for the pilot because maybe there was something where, people were holding their breath at the landing. Or maybe people, with all these accidents, people are just like clapping when the plane lands because they're so thankful. There's a new moon at 9 Pisces at 4:44 p.m. Pacific time. New moons are times to set intentions about what you want to bring forth in your life. I recommend 2 or 3. And for Pisces, you can think about, is there something you need to end? Do you need to tame anything escapist? Do you want to practice forgiveness and working on forgiving yourself or others for some kind of transgression? Charity, doing something charitable. Do you want to make a commitment to donate money to charity regularly or start working with some kind of charity, doing something to make the world a better place? Maybe you decide you're going to start conserving water and really paying attention to how long your showers are or things like that to either get your water bill less expensive or just conserve water because it's a good thing to do for the earth. On Friday, the word of the day is concrete. On this day, the moon will be conjunct Saturn. So that can be people are limited in some way. And Mercury in Pisces is conjunct the North Node. The North Node is an amplifier. And I'm really seeing all of this Pisces energy as, this could be some kind of, this would be a beautiful big event where a lot of people are praying for or getting together to meditate for making the world a better place. And maybe they're all on the steps of a church and could even be singing. Now, it could be a funeral hymn or something like that. It's so interesting that I'm getting this imagery. I'm going to go with something beautiful love is being put into the world. On Saturday, the word of the day is refund. The moon enters the sign of Aries at 1:51 a.m. Aries is a fire sign. It's cardinal initiating energy. Someone could be like, I don't like this blouse I bought, and then decides to return it. This is the day that Venus stations retrograde at 10 Aries at 4:30 p.m. And Mercury in Pisces is conjunct the North Node. So there's amplification of one thing can be, with tariffs, inflation. But yeah, you go back to return it, and Mercury in Pisces, the salesperson starts crying. I don't know. I wonder what is coming in, what this is about. But anyway, I'll talk about it next week. So I also wrote, trying to make $1 out of 15 cents. So if all of the tariffs go through, it's going to impact pricing. So people will need to be aware of that for some things. I also thought maybe a painter, a famous woman, or some kind of like a women's rights icon could pass with this energy. Venus retrograde. We're looking back over the life of a Venus in Aries type figure. Could be something that's coming up. Wouldn't it be incredible? I've been rooting for the women of Iran to take a stand against their government. Wouldn't it be incredible if something happened there? But army stories can be something that comes up about women in the army, but I'll talk about that next week. I would love to have you in Astrology Foundations. Class starts on Thursday, so check it out at the link in the show notes or my website if you're interested in learning astrology on a deeper level to better understand yourself and your loved ones. So that's it for this week's episode. Feel free to email me at celeste@astrologybyceleste.com with any astrology and action stories, or let me know how the daily themes are playing out for you. Take care, and I'll catch you next week. Thank you for listening to Celestial Insights. To learn more about my work, please visit my website, astrologybyceleste.com, where I offer personal readings, horary consultations, cosmic coaching, group events, and classes to help guide people to higher levels of fulfillment. You can also find me on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and Facebook at Astrology by Celeste. If you enjoyed Celestial Insights, please help others find the show. Follow, rate it 5 stars, or write a nice review. I would so appreciate it. I'm astrologer, coach, and intuitive Celeste Brooks, and I'll be back next week.